Being a leader and being an entrepreneur right now is not easy. Right now, we're probably facing one of the hardest time in history with the pandemic. We have the election. We have all this adversity right now, all these challenges that we must get stronger. That's the reason I want to share with you this powerful interview that I did with Vishen Lakhiani. He's the founder of Mindvalley and the author of The Buddha and the Baddass, a book that I've been able to put down ever since I got it. Vishen breaks down how he went from zero to $100 million in his company. And not just that, how he's impacting millions of people's lives at the same time, creating a legacy for other people. If you want to go to the next level, if you want to create an impact, you need to listen to what this man had to say. Because I guarantee you, it will change the way that you think, it will change the way that you work, it will change the game from the inside out. My name is Raul Villacis, and you're listening to the Daily Edge podcast. Learn the systems and the process that successful businessmen are using to take their lives and their business to the next level. Here with me, the one, the only, Vishen Lakhiani, founder of Mindvalley and author of The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. Pleasure to have you, Vishen. Thank you for being here today with us.
Hi, Raul. Thank you for having me on the show.
Great, man. So listen, I want to dig into a little bit of your past because I know you have a great story. I listened to some of the interviews that you had, and tell us a little bit how you got started with this vision of changing the way that people are playing the game in business.
Well, to begin with, let me give a quick intro to people from your show who are perhaps not acquainted with my work or my book. So I run, because I don't want to just assume that everybody knows what I do or who I am. I wrote 2 books, both were New York Times bestsellers. One was called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, and it was an exploration of new models of understanding how to show up in the world so you live your best life. I wrote a follow-up book called The Buddha and the Baddass, which is about bringing spirituality into work to magnify your success as an entrepreneur. And the reason my books are all on the mind and on spirit is because I am a Silicon Valley product guy. So 20 years ago, I moved to Silicon Valley to start a company, but my timing sucked. The dot-com bubble burst and I lost everything. I had to rebuild my life from scratch. Long story short, I ended up losing all my money. I ended up getting kicked out of the United States because after September 11, immigration got really, really, really tight. I had to leave the United States, even though I'd lived in America for 10 years. I had to go back to my home country of Malaysia. I'd done nothing wrong. I was put in the watch list because I was born in a Muslim country. That was the reality of the world back then. And I had to build up my American company from Kuala Lumpur. No investors, halfway around the world. And I had to figure all of this stuff out. Long story short, I created a company called Mindvalley, dedicated to transforming education. Mindvalley became a powerhouse in the personal growth industry. We are probably right now, undisputedly, the #1 most innovative personal growth company in the world. Our products are now used by the US government, by organizations around the world, by millions of consumers. We created Mindvalley Quest, a new way of learning. We just launched Connections by Mindvalley, a private social network for learners. And one of the things I guess I'm most proud of is that despite being cast away in Malaysia, we ended up building an organization so attractive to talent that today we have people from 60 different countries working in our Kuala Lumpur office alone because Mindvalley has become such a great place to work. And we have hit 100 million in revenue. But here's the key thing, with zero investors. So I had to figure all of this stuff out myself. And I wrote, and as I figured this out, I tried to write books to help other entrepreneurs because I don't want to make it seem easier than it was. It was a 15-year journey. I almost went bankrupt 3 times. But today what I'm proud of is me and my ex-wife, we own 100% of the company. Where we just got our first big offer from investors. And this time we are going to take it because we got such a huge offer. And we're now aiming for a NASDAQ IPO.
Beautiful.
But all of this was done through multiple trial and error. A lot of people think it happens overnight. It doesn't. For me, it was 15 years from the time I was 26 years old. And I only figured it out, Raul, when I was 40, literally in my 40th year. That's when I figured it out. And there's a key lesson there. you got to push through a lot of shit before you hit that success. But what I tried to do in the Buddha and the Baddass, which last month hit #1 in the Wall Street Journal, business hardcover, is to try to, because Mindvalley is ultimately an education company. So I look back at what I went through, and I decided to attempt to be consciously aware of what I did right and what I did wrong, what mindsets failed me, what mindsets gave me a boost, and to document these in a way that other entrepreneurs can follow. And that's why I think you invited me onto your podcast.
And what I love about this, I'm getting chills, is that it's 15 years in the making. And people understand that success is impossible to get overnight, but it's 15 years of chipping away on the daily basis. One of the main things that I talk about is focusing on progress. And I know you and I, right before the podcast, we talked about, we met 5 years ago at an event. And 5 years ago, you were in a completely different stage. And probably, I don't know the story, but probably 5 years ago, you were probably in one of those stages, right? They're like, fuck, I need to figure this out, right? Like
right.
you're getting the momentum, you getting the traction, right? 5 years ago, you just started hitting those numbers, but then every single time that you hit adversity, you went back to, how do I figure this out? And I think most entrepreneurs fail because they think that, I'm not supposed to fail. I'm not supposed to fail. It's supposed to be all the way up. So I heard a story about you and Bill Gates when you were in your early years. You actually work for Bill Gates, and tell us about that decision for you to quit Microsoft.
So in the Code of the Extraordinary Mind, I tell a story about how growing up in an Asian family, there was a lot of pressure to go into engineering. If you grow up in an Indian family, the joke is you either become a lawyer, doctor, engineer, or a family failure. And I didn't want to be a family failure. So I became an engineer. For 5 years, I studied at the University of Michigan. And I was one of the 1% of American computer engineers who got that lucrative job offer at Microsoft. Back then in 1998, Bill Gates invited all the new hires to his home for a barbecue. Can you imagine that, on Lake Washington in the outskirts of Seattle? And I was around 10 weeks into my tenure at Microsoft, and I told a story about how Bill was such a wonderful guy. Like he is a true, genuine hero. Despite what some people say about him and vaccines and stuff, he's genuinely doing a lot for the world. And I have so much respect for the guy, but I couldn't shake his hand because I knew that I was miserable working at Microsoft. I'd spent 5 years living someone else's dream. I joined Microsoft to satisfy, honestly, my culture, my parents. It wasn't who I wanted to be. I quit. I literally quit Microsoft in my 11th week. And I gave up everything, the cushy job, the apartment in Redmond, all the perks. And I moved to New York to work for a nonprofit under the poverty line.
And how old were you at that time?
I must have been in my early 20s. It was 1998. So I guess you got to backward calculate. Must have been in my early 20s. I've always believed in throwing yourself into the fire, because the Rumi said, the wound is the part through which the light enters. The more you go through your shadow, the more you go through difficult situations, the stronger and better you become. And so it's not like I'm a suffering junkie, that I seek suffering, but I embrace it because it makes you stronger. And that's a really important theme that I think a lot of us have to get used to in the era of COVID-19. You see, this scenery that I'm in right now, this is my beautiful new apartment. I just bought this gorgeous home in Europe. Today is literally, in fact, while doing this call, this is my first hour in this apartment.
The first virtual guest. We're the first virtual guest in there.
Yes, you guys are the first guest. And I bought it fully furnished because I didn't want to waste any time. I have 2 to 3 years to race towards an IPO. I need to be focused like crazy. But here's the important thing, right? I timed to move into this apartment today, right now. I literally went out. If you look behind me there, you'll see like bags on the ground. Those are bed sheets and towels. It's my first night here. But I literally timed it because tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I'm going under anesthesia for knee surgery. One of the great things about Europe is the healthcare here is so good. If you have any form of illness, any form of like thing in your body that's wrong, you want to get it fixed in Europe. It's so affordable, so good. I'm not wasting any time. I have an apartment. I have a place where I'm going to be comfortable in. I'm going for freaking knee surgery to fix a torn meniscus. And then I'm going to spend 7 days on crutches in this apartment focused on work. Now, the point is, I want to go through that painful surgery. I want to go through the experience of being on crutches because I know I'm going to learn from it. So I'm deliberately putting myself through a trial by fire because at the end of this, I'll be able to run further, jump further. I'll be better able to show up at the gym, but I don't waste any freaking time. I don't need a day or a week to enjoy this apartment. And this is 3 stories up in an old medieval house in Europe, no elevator. I want to push myself on crutches to go up 3 stories because I know there's going to be something from it. The point is, as we go through suffering, as we go through pain, it makes us better. And as entrepreneurs, we need to learn to embrace that. There's another great quote by the Rumi, "O ye who cannot take a good rub, how will you ever become a polished gem?" And so if I'm not pushing myself every single day towards something, then I am not growing. And my goal in life, and I think the goal of every entrepreneur, and this is a central thesis of my book, is that your growth has to be the number one thing. Your growth must supersede everything else. Everything else must be subservient to your growth. If your business becomes $1 billion, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? If your business fails, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? It must all lead to growth. And I put myself through these occasional suffering, this occasional pain, because it makes you stop fearing failure. And that's really a core mindset principle that we all have to learn in an era where the world is so unpredictable.
And I think, and the reason I asked for your age, Vishen, is because I think that now you look at when you were in your 20s, the culture right now feels like if you in your late 20s, you're old. Like they should be already millionaires. They should be already influencers. Like they're hitting 30s and they're already failing. But the reality is they're just getting started.
A study of so two important studies. I believe both of these were from the book Breakthrough Company. Okay, a classic book where the authors surveyed 5,000 companies and entrepreneurs. Here are a couple of things they found. Really, really, really interesting. Number one, you are 30% more successful to start your company, to start your business, if you don't quit your job cold turkey. We've heard, go all in, rubbish. You are 30% more successful if you hold on to your day job and you build your company in nights and weekends. That was one thing I did. Okay. Number two, another interesting discovery in this book, in a survey of 5,000 entrepreneurs and companies. Number two is the average age of people really becoming successful and figuring it out is 38. 38. Most people think it's like you got to get it sorted out when you're 30. No. Between 25 and 38, it's okay to fail. It's okay to fuck up. It's okay to go through pain. Heck, I almost went bankrupt 3 times. I learned from that. 38 is the age most people figure it out. I figured it out at 40, so I was a little bit late. But 38, that's the age. Now, the third thing is if you're a founder, it's super important that you infuse your soul, your essence into your company. Some of the biggest mistakes I made. So in this book, they found that in 85% of the chance, right, after a founder departed, the company went into decline 85% of the time. 85. There are rare exceptions. Apple hasn't gone into decline, but the fact is Apple hasn't grown as much at the pace it has after Steve Jobs left. Founders have a magic power in their company, but most founders don't learn to use it. In my book, The Buddha and the Baddass, I talk about how to really show up as a founder and how to bring together the spiritual core of your founder and infuse that with the core of your company. Now, I know I'm getting into metaphysics here. There's an art to it. We'll come to that later if we have time. But that was the third thing. Protect your status as a founder. You know what is the biggest mistake I made, Raul? When I founded my company, Mindvalley, I stupidly didn't believe in myself enough. And so I gave away 45% of the company to a Stanford MBA because I thought he could help me figure it out. We ended up butting heads. He was a friend in college from Michigan. We stopped becoming friends, and he tried to kick me out of my own company. I had to go into debt to buy back all of the shares that I had given away. He never even put in any money. I gave it away because I failed to believe in myself. And so it's really important that we nurture this self-belief as well. That was probably my biggest mistake. And so, and so entrepreneurship is a really beautiful journey. You learn so much from it, but you got to be prepared to make those mistakes. You got to be prepared to learn from them and move into that next evolution of yourself.
You got to be prepared to face the pain and turn that pain into fuel. One of the main things that I talk about is how do you turn that pain into fuel? And I truly believe that if you are an entrepreneur, you're the modern day gladiator. Like you have to go in and just like Vishen said, you're going to get killed. The key is, do you have the weapons to be able to fight another day? And a question that I have for you, Vishen, is do you believe that everyone has what it takes to actually succeed as an entrepreneur? Because back in the days, entrepreneurship wasn't cool. Now is a cool thing. Like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an influencer. I do this. Do you think everybody has what it takes to succeed as an entrepreneur?
No, but everybody can get there. Everybody can have what it takes, but many people don't. So again, mark my words carefully. I'm not saying not everyone can be an entrepreneur. I'm saying there's a unique set of mindset and skills you need to succeed. You need to develop those skills first before you plunge in. Okay, now here are some of those skills. The first thing is radical adaptability. Radical adaptability. Keith Ferrazzi, who is one of the teachers on the Mindvalley platform, he's the author of multiple New York best-selling books, such as Never Eat Alone and so on. He's producing a new program on leadership for Mindvalley. And the key essence of that program is radical adaptability. Now, the reason is this: the world is changing ridiculously fast. And if you're an entrepreneur, you must have the cognition and the agility to move into this complex world and to seek opportunities. And like a gladiator, to be able to basically avoid stuff that comes at you that can destroy you. Now, the world is going through a radical change for two reasons. Number one, COVID-19 has disrupted our way of life, especially if you're in America. I'm in Europe right now, and things have gone mostly back to normal. In China, things have gone mostly back to normal. But in America, it's really, really, really bad relative to the rest of the world. Okay? And so despite what Trump says, like today he was criticizing New Zealand, America has 42 times the COVID cases reported daily per capita than New Zealand. So if you're American, your life has been disrupted. Radical adaptability is of essence, but there's a second reason. Peter Diamandis, founder of the X Prize, said that we're entering an era of exponential change. In 2016, I heard Peter Diamandis speak, and I remember a quote he said. He said, the amount of change we see between 2000 and 2016 was equivalent to the amount of change we saw between 1900 and 2000. 100 years of change in 16 years. But he said, I'm not done yet. The amount of change we see between 2016 and 22 will be equivalent to the amount of change between 1900 and 2000. What is that? That's 6 years. But he said, I'm not done yet. The amount of change we see between 2022 and 2026, 4 years, will equal the amount of change in an entire century.
Yeah. Exponential growth.
Exponential growth. So we got to be aware of how technology is changing things as well. And so you got to be radically adaptable because of political unrest, because of the freaking pandemic. And then you got to be radically adaptable because of exponential change.
And I love the word you're using, radically adaptable. That means that you have to break through some of the culture, because I think one of the main things that I've seen and why I believe America is going through this pandemic different than in other countries, because we are so used to shit happening instantly. Like when COVID came in, we want an instant solution. We want an instant vaccine. We're pushing when the solution is we have to get stronger. I got sick from COVID. My wife and I gave a talk. We had a group of
sorry
people.
To hear that.
Thank you, appreciate that. But we had an event right in the middle of when New York was in the lockdown. So actually we had to cut the event short. And that was my fear, to get sick. And because I had the event, my wife and I, we got sick. And every single night I had 100+ fever. I was doubting, did I do the right thing? Did I actually, because I wanted to impact the world and influence other people to go to the edge, did I now like infected other people and myself? And then in those days when I was with high fever, when I was pleading for my life, I heard kind of the voice inside me says, do you think you have that much power? Like, I am shaping you. I am molding you. I am preparing you for what's to come. And that actually gave me the sense, because I think we feel that sometimes God or the universe, whatever we believe in, is supposed to save us, when the reality is we need to strengthen our faith, strengthen our consciousness. And I think COVID is really a wake-up call for every single one of us, that the antidote is to get fucking stronger. That's that solution. Get fucking healthy. That's it. You want to get sick, get fucking healthy. Your body is going to adapt. Your body is going to react. Yes, it's real. People are dying. I felt like I was dying. But we can't live on fear on that. So in that sense, what do you say to those guys who are living fear, wearing masks and everything, and just living on that fear already?
Well, firstly, wearing a mask doesn't mean you're living in fear. Wearing a mask is socially responsible. The reason Europe is back to normal, like literally, there are parties here, like everything is normal. I just got back from a holiday, is because when it came down to it, Europeans didn't have a crazy politician saying masks are bad. Everyone wore a mask. We stayed at home. Boom, it was over. And so now it's back to normal here in the Baltics. I was in Malaysia, mostly back to normal in Malaysia. Yeah, we had to go through lockdown for 2 months, but now it's back to normal. So wearing a mask is not a sign of fear. Let's cut that bullshit right at the reason America is so embarrassingly behind in terms of COVID is because of ideas like that. So I want to dismiss that right about, because I'm American at heart. I care about America. Wear a fucking mask. Okay. And because in 2 weeks, if everybody just got together, we could significantly make a dent on this thing. Now, if that pisses you off, I'm sorry. Stop listening to your president and start listening to scientists. Now, I'm going to get on with the transformational part of this equation. Entrepreneurs need to learn how to rapidly upgrade themselves. Rapidly upgrade themselves. And there's a model for transformation. And it goes like this. It's cognition plus belief plus practice. I repeat, cognition plus belief plus practice. So transformation is the act of becoming a better version of yourself. Transformation is marked by becoming more wiser, becoming more compassionate, becoming more loving, becoming more adaptable. All of these are, it's an expansion of yourself. And you can transform in multiple different dimensions of being human. You can transform as a lover, you can transform as a thinker, you can transform your fitness, you can transform as a parent. In all of these different dimensions, you want to constantly seek transformation. Okay, so the equation again is cognition plus beliefs plus practice. Now, cognition means this. It means understanding new ideas, new models, not just reading about it, but deeply understanding it. One of the most important things I did as an entrepreneur is I went out and I started getting mentored by every brilliant mind I could. I would pay tens of thousands of dollars to join networking groups so I could network with people who had built bigger businesses than me. When my business was at 1 million, I networked with people who had built 5 million revenue businesses. When I got to 5 million, I networked with people who had built 10 million. When I did 10 million, I networked with people who built 20. When I got to 20, I networked with people who built 40. When I got to 40, I networked with people who built 75. I kept networking my way all the way up. Until right now, I have a massive network all around the world, and I learn from the ideas, the philosophies, the thoughts of all of these different mentors. So that's the first thing, cognition. It comes from reading. It comes from networking. It also comes from practice. And you practice by actually doing things and learning. If it fails or it succeeds, it doesn't matter. What's the key question? Did you grow? All of that lead to cognition. Okay, now there's a second part of the equation, beliefs. So you can understand things, but ultimately what shapes you into a new human being are your beliefs. Your beliefs will override everything else. What you believe to be true about the world will be true for you. It will literally be true for you. If you believe business is hard, it will be hard. If you believe you need to work hard to succeed, you will need to work hard to succeed. If you believe that you can move into flow states and work can be a breeze and you do not have to work hard and you can succeed, that will be true for you as well. You get to choose, but your beliefs will shape your reality. We are not human beings purely. We are spirit expressing ourselves as human beings. And what we believe to be true about the world will become true for us. There was a famous book called Psycho-Cybernetics written by Dr. Maxwell Maltz in the 1980s. He was a plastic surgeon, and what he found is that when he changed the nature of people's faces, even if it was a really tiny change, like a tiny shift to their nose that maybe only they noticed, other aspects of their life would just completely change. Why? Because they believed they looked better, which gave them more confidence, which made them believe that people would be responding to them differently. Nothing was actually changing. Nobody could notice the shift, but their belief had changed. He wrote a book on this concept called Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a great book. Now, concepts like hypnotherapy, meditation, one of the reasons they work so well is because you use them to change your beliefs. Okay, so again, you got to be learning, but you also got to take on the right beliefs of great entrepreneurs. And these beliefs are beliefs that say, listen, I might fail. That's okay with me. I'm going to learn. Some of the healthiest beliefs are beliefs such as, I don't believe in hard work. I believe in smart work. I believe in win-win relationships with the people around me. I believe that I'm intelligent enough to deal with the massive amount of change happening in the world. I believe that life is easy. Professor Srikumar Rao, the famous American MBA professor, says the number one most important belief to have is, can you guess?
No. Believe it yourself?
It is to believe that you live in a benevolent universe, that you believe there's a higher power watching out over you. He teaches this in an MBA class. Whether you believe it's Jesus or whether you believe it is any other form of higher power, it's the belief that you live in a benevolent universe. Okay, so again, you have cognition. But cognition is learning. You got to learn, you got to read, but you got to mold your beliefs. Now, the third thing is your habits. So again, beliefs are good, but you got to put those beliefs in practice, and that's what becomes a habit. Are you meditating? Are you exercising? Are you sleeping well? Are you taking care of your health, your cognition? I spent a significant amount of time, like I've had maybe 3 or 4 trips to Necker Island where I've had to spend time, I've been able to spend time with a great entrepreneur, Richard Branson. And I noticed the sheer amount of time he spends on his health. After dinner, he'd tell us, hey, I'm going to wake up 6 a.m. the next day. Who wants to join me? Going to swim 5 kilometers in the open sea from Necker to Mosquito Island. And, everyone has been drinking. It's 11 p.m. and boom, we wake up at 6 a.m. We jump into the ocean with him and we swim. That's crazy. Like nothing stops that man. But I asked him and he says, look, I believe that I got to keep my body healthy so I can show up as my best self. Health is one of the most important things we got to do as entrepreneurs. We got to take care of our health. And so sleep, eating well, exercise, meditation are all super critical right now. And especially in the age of a pandemic, these could mean the difference between falling incredibly ill or letting COVID just move through you. So a couple of things to keep in mind, right, on why practices are so important. Studies show that if you give up sleep by 90 minutes, so if you require 8 hours of sleep and you sleep 90 minutes less, let's say you sleep 6.5 hours, you lose 1/3 of your brain functioning the next day. That's from Tom Rath's book, Eat, Move, Sleep. Studies on nutrition. Dr. Daniel Amen, America's top brain doctor, just released a study showing that if you have excess belly fat as a male, it's going to affect your cognition. Your brain is going to be slower, which means you're not going to show up as your best self at work. You're not going to be able to have the full mental faculties to solve the problems you need to solve as an entrepreneur. So you said it right, Raul. Entrepreneurs have to be like gladiators. Gladiators don't get obese and then go into the ring. Gladiators don't eat crap. Gladiators work out. Gladiators exercise. Gladiators play the mental game. You got to do the same thing. So let's put the equation together again. Number 1, cognition. Learn, study, read. Take up speed reading. You can do it on Mindvalley. And read a book a week if you can. Number 2, train your belief system. Model the top entrepreneurs, the top thinkers in the world. Understand what is it that they believe about the world, and then take on those beliefs. And number 3, fine-tune your habits and practices like a gladiator.
It's awesome, brother. I love this. I love this because most people right now, like I said, are living on fear. And I think fear is what kills momentum. Fear kills dreams. One of the things that for me has created a huge shift is meditation. I didn't meditate until I had to. I think a lot of us, we don't get healthy until we have to. I was going through a midlife crisis, Vishen. Probably when we met, I was coming out of my tunnel. I call it the midlife crisis a tunnel. I don't believe there's a midlife crisis as a crisis. I believe there's an opportunity. Back in the days in the tribal times, if you wanted to be a leader of a tribe, you have to go into the wilderness and kill the wolf, right? And come back and say, hey, I'm a leader. You guys could trust me. Nowadays, anybody could be a leader. Look, we have many people right now in leadership positions that never pay the price to be a leader. So I believe the midlife crisis is an opportunity for you to actually go through the wilderness and find your purpose. One of the biggest patterns that I see is men losing their purpose. For you, it happened at the beginning of your career, which is great because you found like Microsoft wasn't your purpose. You had to go through a pain in order for you to find your purpose. Now there's men with $1 million company, but they're not in it for the right things or the right purpose. They're in it for the money only. So I see a lot of men sabotaging their success, and that's what I call losing the edge. When you lose your purpose, when you lose your drive, and you're just doing it for the money, and now you can't even look at yourself in the mirror. So what would you say to those guys who are going through this tunnel based on all your research? You go into this quote unquote midlife crisis. How do you go through that and find the gift in the middle of the tunnel?
So one of the key things to understand about life, right, is that all of us have something called a soul print. This is actually chapter 1 of my book, The Buddha and the Baddass. So I want you to look at your finger right now. Look at your fingertip. And look at the fine print on your fingertip. It's unique. Only you have that fingerprint. But what if there's a unique essence to your soul as well, like a unique soul print, a marker of who you are? Most people never live their soul print. That soul print is an expression of why their soul chose them, why their soul chose to be born as that person, with those parents, in those circumstances. Whether you were born in Kenya or Louisiana, doesn't matter. I believe our souls choose us. But that belief goes a little bit further. I believe that our souls each have a mission. And our souls will teach us to latch on to that mission by giving us the opposite of that mission. So let me give you an example. You might face abuse as a kid. You might have had an abusive father or an abusive mother. And you decide when you grow up that enough is enough. Kindness is going to be your way of life. And so that kindness is part of your soul print. Now, maybe you are a woman and you were denied a job opportunity because of your gender. You decide enough is enough. You want to stand up for the hurt that you feel. You want to ensure other women do your part to ensure other women don't experience it. So equality becomes that essence of your soul print. In my case, my soul print was being put on a Muslim watch list. I was a guy who was pro-America, pro-George Bush, pro-Fox News. All of a sudden, I was on a Muslim watch list. I was like completely on the right side. Yeah. And I had to leave the country I loved. And I decided that, holy shit, I need to fight for unity. And so I decided that an underlying DNA that I'm going to build an education company that's going to teach the world to align itself together so that we stop judging people based on our religion or the color of our skin or our nationality, and that we move towards seeing each other as members of a unified species. That is, by the way, an underlying idea behind everything we do at Mindvalley. It's why my team is from 69 countries. It's why our company is so diverse. Now, that was my soul print. But here's the thing. Your suffering is giving you your soul print. Your suffering, very often, are the breadcrumbs to you finding your mission. Like Steve Jobs said, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. You need to connect the dots looking backwards. Look at the ripples and the waves of your life and look at what were the moments where you suffered, where you failed, where you got rejected, where you got diminished, and look at the moments where you were having ecstasy, peaks, success. All of these contributes to your soul print, your lows and your highs. And you need to analyze that, journal that, and figure out, what does this say about how I want to show up in the world? What are the suffering that I experience that I want no one else to have? So I'm going to fight for a more just world. And at the same time, what are the peak experiences I had that was so ecstatic? I want more of that for other people. And so I'm going to fight to give that to people. Part of my soul print was I saw meditation change my life. So I decided that meditation was going to be part of my mission. So I started a company that was about infusing meditation and global unity. It became a $100 million in revenue company that's about to go public on the NASDAQ. You see, when you start operating from the point of your soul print, magic happens. It's as if the universe suddenly says, she's got it. And we're going to back her all the way. But most people don't. And so most people waste their lives working for companies which are soulless, with no mission. There's a difference. And I want you to be very honest as you're listening to this. Are you working for a company, or are you building a company that's actually aligned with the core of your soul and making the world better? Or are you working for a company minus the soul, a widget manufacturer, or a company like Coca-Cola that's trying to tell the world that positivity comes in high fructose corn syrup? Are you working for big tobacco? Are you working for companies which are actually making the planet better off or making the planet worse off? There's a difference. In my books, I call it humanity plus or humanity minus. Humanity plus is you're building products, services, ideas that make the world better off multiple generations down. Humanity minus is when you're working for a company or working on a product or service or idea that's actually making the world worse off multiple generations down. You got to be really real with yourself, and you got to decide. But I can tell you this, business people do it for the dollars, but real entrepreneurs do it to push humanity forward.
Yeah.
You want to be a real entrepreneur? Stop fucking around. Stop chasing just the dollar. You got to find something that lights up your soul and makes the world better. And this is so important right now, Raul. This is so important because the world right now looks like it's freaking burning from climate change, from a pandemic, from nationalist politicians like Trump and Bolsonaro. There's so much change we need to create.
And listening to you just reminds me of when I started the Next Level Experience. I remember this was supposed to be a program that invites investors to invest in real estate. It wasn't actually the Next Level Experience. It was called the Next Level Real Estate. So my first event in Vegas, I had a bunch of investors come in, and my idea was about to pitch them how to take advantage of the next wave of the market, because my background is in real estate, right? So I have all these guys in hedge fund managers, real estate investors, prime. And what I shared with them was my story about my midlife crisis. What I shared with them is how I went to India for 3 weeks and I started meditating with the monks, and they broke me down so I could actually see all the things that I've done, and now I'm shifting. What I share with them is drinking every single night. How was I sedating my pain, even though I had a good business, a good marriage, and I was sabotaging myself. And I had no idea why. I mean, it's kind of like I was speaking, but it wasn't me. I was watching it from the other side. I was like, what the fuck are you doing, Raul? And I was just in flow. I spoke for like an hour and a half, and 90% of that room were in tears. And your soul knows when is your time. Because if it wasn't for the Raul in the head, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't put myself in a situation. I was thinking what the fuck did I just do? I just shared my soul to these strangers. They were supposed to be my investors, but now out of that event, that's when my soul purpose came out, which helping men find the edge, helping men find the light outside of that dark tunnel. But I look back, and it wasn't, the Raul at that version wasn't able to do it. We have to tap into the higher version of ourselves. And I want to get your feedback on the multiple versions. How can we get the lessons and the power from the version 10 years, 20 years from now? versus the one, because there's some listeners right now thinking like, I don't have the power that Vishen has or Raul has. Like, I'm stuck in a business where I have to make ends meet. How do they tap into the highest version of themselves, which I believe the soul knows? And the soul is always going to help you break through.
There are a number of different methodologies. Okay. One of the best I've done is Lifebook. Lifebook is the best program for entrepreneurs because we are trained to look at our life from two dimensions, career and finance. Lifebook, which is created by a famous pair of American entrepreneurs, John and Missy Butcher, has you look at your life from 12 dimensions. You set goals for character, for your emotional state, for your parenting, for your health, for your relationships. Because so many people end up lopsided. They may be crushing it in terms of money, but their health is damaged. Or they may be super healthy, but they are broke. Lifebook teaches you how to get your entire life moving solidly. And full confession, Lifebook changed my life so much, I license it, so it's now part of Mindvalley. But Google it. It's a remarkable thing. And we made it payment optional. So you can take it. At the end of it, you want your 500 back, take your 500 back. When I took it, by the way, it was 5,000. Mindvalley brought the price down to 500 and made it payment optional. The second thing is, after you've done Lifebook, get on Mindvalley All Access. It is the best. All Mindvalley programs are open to you for $595 a year. It's the best investment you can make in yourself, bar none. There is no better way to spend your money on the planet than Mindvalley All Access because of just how much incredible content for entrepreneurs. So you learn from like Gerard Adams. He's one of our new authors. You learn how to fine tune your sleep, your fitness, all from the leading teachers in the world. And it's got a huge community and it's growing so fast right now. I'd say those are two key things. You can understand it this way. The first gives you a compass. So you know the type of lives you want to build. That's Lifebook. The second gives you all the cognition, the beliefs, and the habits you need to move towards that compass.
And at the end of the day, I look at your company as the Netflix of personal development. I was just looking at your website and the Spanish community. I mean, you've gone above and beyond, going through the content and actually doubling the content in Spanish, so people consume it. So you're not, this is not just
Mindvalley's become huge in Spain. Today we just announced we're now doing original Spanish language programming.
Yeah, I love that. I think that right now in the market, we need to make sure that everyone is served. Like every single community is served because we need community. One last question that I'll ask you, Vishen, because one of the things that I teach is how to have a morning routine that allows you to break through. And one of the things that I teach my guys is every single day, you have the option to react or to create. But you need to start every single morning with the intention of creation. And sometimes that means shedding away all the shit that you did yesterday and last week and letting go of all the mind fuck that sometimes we put in our heads of not being enough, not having enough. What's your morning routine? What's your morning ritual look like right now?
Well, for me, it's the 6-phase meditation. The 6-phase meditation is a meditation model I developed. I made it free, so Google it. You will find it. It's been endorsed by athletes from every major American sports team. When Bianca Andreescu, for example, beat Serena Williams at the US Open tennis, she credited my book, and she's a student. She's actually attended our live classes on the 6-phase. Tony Gonzalez, big proponent of it, NFL Hall of Fame, tons and tons and tons of athletes. Now, why? Because the 6-phase is a unique form of meditation that improves your cognition and your level of thinking, so you show up better as yourself. And it makes a massive difference if you're an entrepreneur. Athletes have been endorsing it because when athletes do it, they can directly see the impact in their scoring. So they measure really fast, which is why so many athletes rave about it. But it's not just for athletes. I designed it for entrepreneurs. But Google 6-phase meditation, Vishen Lakhiani, you'll find it. Or get the Omvana app by Mindvalley, OMVANA. It is on that app.
Beautiful, man. You're giving us tons of insights, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here, and I would love to reconnect with you. And once the COVID ends, man, I wanna go to one of those events. I know I was talking to your team members about possibly speaking at one of the Mindvalley events, because we do a process that takes that man from the warrior to the king mindset. One of the main things that I see that men need to step into the warrior mode. I believe that a lot of men lack the warrior mentality, but once you're in a warrior mode, you have to step into the king mindset. So I look at you right now, you're embodying the king. You already have the king mindset. But at the beginning, to build a business, you have to be a fucking warrior.
Right.
You have to build a warrior.
Exactly.
But you have to have a transition, because the warrior dies, the king lives forever, because the king creates a legacy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you, Raul.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and send Allison from my team information on what you speak about. We just launched virtual stages for our members, where we have incredible speakers like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Gerard Adams, our mutual friend, all coming and speaking to these live Zoom calls with thousands of people. They are so cool, and maybe you'd be a potential speaper. So
Absolutely,
I'd love to see how we can collaborate.
We could bring the edge to Mindvalley. We could bring the edge to the Mindvalley. Awesome, brother. Anything else that you would like our audience to know before we check out? Anything that you want to share with them?
My book is called The Buddha and the Baddass. Hit #1 in the Wall Street Journal last month, and so I'm excited to get more people introduced to the book. Company is called Mindvalley, and you can learn about Mindvalley All Access at mindvalley.com/access. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
If you like this podcast, send me a text from a community platform at 203-405-9199 for exclusive content and direct access to me, so I can take your life to the next level. That's 203-405-9199. Send me a text now.